Welcome back to the Film Library, a Kanopy podcast. I'm Kristy Puchko, entertainment editor at Mashable.
And I'm Jeff Rauseo, a film lover who treats every summer like a personal film festival, minus the lanyard.
This week, we're kicking off our cinematic summer, a collection of films that feel hot, sweaty, unpredictable, and just a little bit unhinged. These aren't your typical beach reads on screen. They are movies that get under your skin, crackle with energy, and leave you feeling like you just woke up from a fever dream.
From surreal noirs to absurd comedies and sun-bleached thrillers, we're each bringing a list of summer viewing picks that just hit different. You'll find cult favorites, international gems, and films that are as refreshing as an ice-cold drink in the middle of a heat wave.
So whether your summer plans involve rooftop screenings, air-conditioned movie marathons, or just watching something totally bonkers at 2 a.m., we got you covered.
Now, before we get started, I got a question for you, Kristy. I want to know, what is the most summeriest movie that ever summered? The one that just captures the perfect summer in your mind.
Oh, I don't know if the perfect summer, but like a summer movie I go back to a lot is The Perfect Getaway. Maybe that's the word, the perfect. I was like, oh, perfect. Do you know The Perfect Getaway?
No, tell me all about it.
Oh, it's a David Twohy movie that I feel like not enough people have seen. And it starts off with Mila Jovovich and Steve Zahn are on their honeymoon in Hawaii. And they're like, oh, we're having a great time. We're going to go hiking and be a part of nature. And then they're like, oh, yeah, we heard that there are murderers on the island. Someone's killing honeymooners. And they're like, oh, no. And then they run into Timothy Oliphant and his girlfriend. And they're like, these guys are suspicious as hell. And it is like a thriller about like who can you trust and who, whatever. And like, I love it so much. And this is what I'll say about it. I rented it once because I like Timothy Oliphant and Steven Zahn. So I was like, sold, in, I'm there. And then my partner was in the next room. I think he was playing World of Warcraft with his friends online. And I was so loud that he came in to check and see if I was okay because I was having reactions. And then as soon as it was over, I started it again. Wow. So it is a very fun movie that is very twisted, and it's like, you know, it is all those things we talked about. It is hot, it is sweaty, it is unhinged. It is about a beautiful location and beautiful people going swimming and hiking and doing other things that like are not my speed, like, you know, hunting. But yeah, people should check it out. It's very cool, and if you like Timothy Oliphant, you should absolutely see this movie.
Well, that's probably the highest praise you can give a movie is when you watch it and then you instantly restart it. And I think my pick, I've done this with too, at least when I was a kid, but I'm going with The Sandlot because I'm a baseball guy, so I loved The Sandlot. I wore out that VHS tape when I was growing up. We probably had to buy a second one. And I just love it starts right as the new kid moves into town, like at the beginning of the summer, and it takes you through the whole summer, and they do the 4th of July, and they do the carnival, and they're playing baseball, and they're just like being kids, and it's like exactly... There's a real snapshot there of like when I was 10, like exactly what a summer was before phones and social media, and even like we had video games, but like not like we have now. So like we did the same thing. We rode our bikes and we went to the corner store and we played baseball and like went and saw the fireworks on the 4th of July and like
told a creepy story about your neighbors. Or maybe that was me.
No, we had that at the end of my street. There was a creepy old lady it was literally the same myth. It was like if a ball rolls down the hill into her yard, you'll never see it again.
Yeah.
She runs out and grabs it. It was so perfectly like everybody's childhood, even though it's set in like, I think the 50s. It like didn't matter. It was just so perfect. I don't know if it would resonate with kids today, not to be an old man yelling at the sky, but like for me, it was just perfect. It's the perfect summer movie.
Yeah, it was definitely about a time before parents knew where their kids were all the time. And in fact, we're totally fine letting you just be out all day.
Yep. And I think I was probably the last generation that had that before. Now I can see, you know, where everybody on the planet is by opening up locations. So yeah, it's just a different world. I love that movie though.
I love Sandlot. They actually, both of these movies made our list at Mashable of summer movies you can stream right now. Yeah, check it out if you want more summer movie picks.
Well, we mentioned Arthouse thrillers and neo-noirs, and I've got one for you from Christopher Nolan I think this might have been the movie when I was like 16 or 17. I was like, oh, movies can do like crazy movie stuff, and like made me into sort of who I am. But it's Memento from 2000. I think it's his second movie. He had a shorter one called Following a few years before, but people think Christopher Nolan, and I think nowadays like it's Oppenheimer and all this big stuff. Memento's a little bit smaller, but it still has that Nolan twist to it. In fact, if you've seen Tenet, it's kind of like Memento's easier to understand than that, but it plays with kind of some of the same themes in terms of how the story is laid out. But basically, you got Leonard, played by Guy Pearce. He's a man with short-term memory loss who's trying to find the man who murdered his wife, but the whole story is told in reverse because the whole point is like the narrative structure is supposed to mimic his condition. So we only learn what he knows when he knows it. And every couple of minutes you get another piece of information and it kind of resets, your expectations, just like his memory does. He's sticking sticky notes all over the place. I mean, the poor guy's a mess. But it's really interesting because it goes between black and white. It moves forward in time. The color scenes move backwards. I mean, there's all these different intersections. He's completely messing with your mind. It'll often come up on like those mind-melting movies lists because you do have to probably watch it twice. We mentioned high praise, watching a movie right again. Like, I think I did that with Memento too. You watch it and you go, okay, well, now I need to watch it again now that I know what happened and try to kind of decipher some of it. It's a great movie. You're not sure kind of what's going on. It was Christopher Nolan's breakout. Actually got him an Oscar nomination for screenplay, which is probably well-deserved considering how convoluted and crazy the screenplay is. To put that together was not easy. But it definitely kicked off a trend too of like that Arthouse indie thriller. The Machinist kind of deals with some of this. You see some of these themes, and even stuff like Black Mirror. I mean, it kicked off a whole sort of the art house thriller neo-noir thing that, and then obviously kicked off the career of one of the biggest filmmakers in the world. So an important movie in that way, but one that I swear I watched it and I was like, oh, okay. Like, I like movies now, like more than just, I liked Jurassic Park and stuff, but like,
sure.
Oh, I like movie. Like,
yeah,
that was
no,
interesting.
I get that. I remember seeing this in theater because an older friend of mine was like, we have to see this movie. And I didn't know what it was. And I remember that feeling of just like, whoa, like it really knocked my hair back. It's a
whoa movie for sure.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I think it's interesting because my first pick is also kind of about perception because like so much of Memento is like our perception being shifted by what he is remembering and choosing to remember. I went with The Painter and the Thief from 2020. It's a documentary from Benjamin Ree, and it's really interesting because it's kind of a true crime documentary in that it does deal with a theft. Specifically, there is a Czech hyper-realist or naturalistic painter named Barbara Kyselkova, and she had two paintings in a gallery in Oslo, and two men came in the middle of the day and stole them right out of their frames, which is not an easy thing to do because it's not like in the movies where they like cut it with a knife. Like they unscrewed them from the frames.
Take the frame.
Yeah, well, no, normally like in heist movies they're like cut it out of the frame and then you just grab it and go. But that's not what happened. But they did take these two paintings, and one of the men was trying for it. His name was Carl Bertil Nordland, and what's interesting is they caught him, but they didn't recover the painting. And she wanted to understand kind of why her painting. And so she reached out to him. And this is kind of the story of them becoming friends. But it is an interesting film that I started rewatching because I remember loving it, but I wanted to be more tactile on like, why did I love this movie when we talked about it? Because I was like, oh, I remember it like really messed with my head. But it's like, because when you are contacting someone that you know wronged you because you want to understand them, what is your goal in that? And the film is kind of interrogating that as we go. And it keeps showing these two people from how they see each other. It is not about them telling their story. Like, he isn't like, this is how I grew up. And she isn't like, this is how I grew up. Instead, Benjamin Ree has them tell the story of how the other one grew up. And so you are getting their perception of each other as the movie goes on. And like, you'll hear something like, he totally ghosted me, but then you hear why he ghosted her from his perspective. So as the film's going on, you're constantly having to kind of assess the perspective that you're being presented with. And then also keeping in mind that this is a friendship that is being forged in front of a camera in part. So like, what part of that is playing into this? Because they are fighting over a narrative of who they are and why they came together and like even what these paintings mean. And it's a really fascinating film to kind of not observe just their story, but also understand like what is it we want out of each other? What is it we want out of friendship? What is it we want out of, a muse? Because he becomes a muse. She ends up painting him a couple of times.
Mm.
And some of the ways she chooses to do that, it's like, is she seeing him or is she exploiting him or is it both? And what does that mean? And like, I love a documentary that kind of keeps me on my toes. We talked about this before with like The Imposter or like the docudrama American Animals. And my favorite documentaries are really the ones that make me have to lock in. They're not just talking to me. They're like making me a part of the discovery process, making me a part of the conversation because, you and I could watch this and have very different opinions on who these people are. So I really recommend The Painter and the Thief. I think it's a really beautiful and kind of unnerving film in an unconventional way because it's not like anything. It's not like it's like upsetting exactly. It's more like it's a very vulnerable and emotionally raw film about two people who do see each other and how scary that can be. So yeah, I really love it. I think it's definitely something to kind of allow you to kind of get the sense of exposing yourself in like a safe environment that is just your living room watching Kanopy.
Yeah. No, I mean, it sounds deep, and I'm going to feel silly diving into my next pick after you just got so deep. So before I die, let me give you one more. Tickled. I almost had this on my list, but if another really kind of keep you on your toes documentary, just as a bonus recommendation, Tickled. But I got to check out Painter and the Thief because I do love a movie that doesn't tell me how to feel and just lets me. I feel like too many movies now just tell you, they're so in your face with like, here's how you're supposed to take this. Here's the message. And like, I much prefer something that kind of lets me take away from that. But
I think your next movie does that. This is a pretty highbrow movie. I feel like you're not giving yourself enough credit.
This is a pretty high. Okay, that's fair. It is pretty highbrow. I was gonna say like there's obviously this movement in the last 10, 15 years, whatever you want to call it, of like the elevated horror, art house horror become very big. This is probably the most like art housey thing that I've seen that's gone like at all mainstream somewhat. It wasn't a huge hit, but it got a lot of attention. It's called In a Violent Nature. It's actually just from last year. It came out in 2024. I believe there's already a sequel in the works that's supposed to be coming out, but it's a pretty bold take on the slasher, which again sounds like silly. Like it's a slasher movie. How bold could it be? But it flips the perspective. Again, speaking perspective, like instead of looking from the perspective of all the victims at the, campground through the woods, we have flipped the camera and the camera is literally following this hulking undead creature called Johnny. And he basically slowly makes his way through the woods and picks off a group of 20-somethings who accidentally disturbed his grave and woke him up. And it is super stripped down, low budget. There's not much dialogue because Johnny doesn't say a word, as most of your, your Jason Voorhees and your Michael Myers don't. So you're just kind of following him through the woods. And there's, there are multiple, I would say 5-10 minute sequences where you're like just watching him walk through the woods and the leaves are just kind of crunching and the birds are singing and there's just these long tracking shots behind him. And then it hits, and when the violence hits, it is brutal. I mean, there are some kills in this that I have not seen in any other slasher movie, and they pretty much let them draw out and do their thing.
Yeah, I would say these are like Terrifier level, like, whoa.
It's pretty close to that, yeah, because you're watching from the killer's perspective, so there's no quick cuts away and, someone jumps in to try to save them, and there's no music and all this. Like, it's very not Hollywood slasher. It's very much like you're kind of, I likened it to like almost playing a video game in a way. Like you are very intimately involved with Johnny as a character and you're watching every move he makes, as boring sometimes as just walking through the woods can be and as brutal as some of the violence can be. But it is kind of a beautiful movie. I kind of liked it. Like it at times almost feels like a nature, like little moment of nature. Like at the
I'm trying to remember. I forget who, but somebody said it's like, what if Terrence Malick made a slasher movie?
Yeah, there are these like beautiful just moments of nature. And like, yeah, he's walking through the woods with a huge hook and chains and stuff, and he's going to kill. but you're like, oh, it's just the forest and it's nice and it's kind of quiet and peaceful. And then they
If only
ruin
these
that.
teenagers hadn't disturbed his grave, he would have just been having a
Exactly.
nice walk.
He's just trying to have a good time. He's in his home. They came to his house and screwed up his life, so he's upset about it. But it's really cool. I mean, I'm really very curious what they're gonna do with the sequel. It's very Friday the 13th, as if you're just following Jason around for literally an hour and a half. But it's slow and quiet and has a good rhythm and some decent jump scares. But it's just a very original horror movie. It's a really cool example of like taking that indie art house kind of view and just reframing a genre completely.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I agree with that. I think similarly, my next pick is a dark comedy, and it's definitely an eat the rich comedy. But I also know people who were mad that I called this a comedy, and then they saw it.
I think it's a comedy.
I think
I'm
so
with
too.
you.
I'm talking Triangle of Sadness by Ruben Östlund, who also did The Square and Force Majeure. And if you know his filmography, should have some idea what's in store. But it's really interesting. It's like told in 3 parts. And like the first part just starts off with this model played by Harris Dickinson, who you might remember from Baby Girl. And it's like this very funny, like it starts off a very funny kind of casting call where they're like, this is a serious brand, or like, this is a high expensive brand of clothing, so no smiles. And like, it's all these beautiful shirtless men just being like, serious face, because this is expensive. And then they're like, H&M, and they're all like, and so like, that's where it starts. And then very quickly, you're having conversations about kind of power dynamics and his relationship with his model girlfriend, who is more successful than he is. And then they're on a mega yacht where they are new money versus these like arms dealers who are old money. And then it's very, as I understand, Below Decks. I don't watch Below Decks, but I have friends who do. So I've heard a lot about it. So I feel confident in that comparison. But there's the kind of like these rich people who feel like they can tell the crew to do whatever they want. And sometimes like the rich people think they're doing a kind thing, like, tub with me. What a good time. And it's like, oh, this person's working and you're weird and like they don't want anything to do with you. This isn't as helpful as you think. So there's like a satire aspect in that because they're just showing these workers who are like, okay, like you pay my bills, so we're going to do this. But then there's a lot of turns of events that involve vomits and storms. And ultimately, a bunch of them end up abandoned on a desert island. And, what does owning a mega yacht mean on a desert island when it's sunk? Ping! So now the tables are turned, and it's like, what skills do you actually have when you're on a desert island? And it's a very interesting movie that, like, what I enjoyed watching it is, like, you can't be like, oh, I'm locked in, I get what this is now, because it keeps changing what it is. And that is not a good experience for everyone. I think some people go to movies for the comfort of knowing what they're coming into. That is not what today's show is about.
No.
Show is very much about those movies that are going to grab you and shake you around a little bit. And this is definitely one of them. It was Oscar nominated for Best Screenplay and Best Director. It includes Dolly De Leon, who's great in this, and Woody Harrelson. And I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly, and I apologize in advance, but Zlatko Buric, who also is in Superman this summer. So if you were like, I don't like this dictator guy, good news, you cannot like him in this too. He's very good at playing the guy that you're like, that guy. And yeah, a really terrific, very weird comedy that does involve a lot of vomit. So I'm going to say this. You should definitely watch it if you're willing to try something different. Don't watch it while eating. That is my advice to you. That's not necessarily a problem you have if you go to theater because but like if you're at home and you're like, it's a fun movie while we eat dinner. It's not Triangle of Sadness. You just give that a moment. Let that settle in. But yeah, highly recommend Triangle of Sadness. If you didn't catch it the first time around when everyone was going crazy for it, watch it on Kanopy, man, because it rule.
It does. Yeah. The Eat the Rich movies are having a bit of a moment right now. I
don't know why.
Life of me can't understand why, but I did really like that one. That was a lot of fun. And it was, I do see it as it's satirical. It's a comedy.
Yeah.
It is very dark. It's very dark comedy.
It's just, like some people, I think when you say comedy, they're expecting Naked Gun. And I love Naked Gun, but I also accept the triangles as the comedy.
Right. Yeah. There's levels to comedy. Well, I have another pitch black comedy for you if we're going to stay on the pitch black comedy train for a second. And I have had similarly when I recommended this online, people told me I was dumb and this is not a comedy, but I will stand by it being a comedy. It's just a pitch black comedy. And it
Yeah.
is the art of self-defense.
I got your back in this.
Okay. I
In
got
this
your back on
cinematic
Triangle
fight,
of Sadness. So we're going to fight the comedy battle here.
We're going to meet in a Denny's parking lot and take on all comers.
There are levels to comedy, and we're at a pitch black level right now. But yeah, this is Jesse Eisenberg, and it is, pretty deadpan and robotic, which Jesse Eisenberg, he's really good at that. But the whole movie, it feels like I wrote this out a few different ways, and I liked what I said, but it's like masculinity is a martial art, and your belt color is your soul. How deep is that?
I like that.
Jesse Eisenberg's basically this a meek accountant. He gets mugged, and he's like, that's it. I'm never getting mugged again. I'm going to go to a karate dojo and basically, learn how to defend himself, self-improvement. And that spirals into something a lot more sinister. The dojo's run by Sensei, who's played by, I hope I'm getting a name right, Alessandro Nivola. Perfect. He's calm, polite, and absolutely unhinged. Common theme here, like there are these people that are just deadpan robotic, but they are unhinged, violent, toxic, cult-like behavior. Imogen Poots plays Anna, the only female student in the dojo. She's clearly better than most of the men, but everybody overlooks her. And it is just, the dialogue is kind of short and stilted, but it feels like everyone's just kind of reading from a manual on how they should behave in society. I mean, it is very funny.
That's a really good way of putting it. I hadn't thought of that. I like that. Yeah.
They all, it's almost like they're reading off like a script. Like whoever wrote the script for this, they did a really great job. But the funniness, it all comes from like the awkwardness and the absurdity. I mean, if you don't vibe with like the awkward, absurd humor, maybe you won't think this is funny, but it's kind of Yorgos Lanthimos, but with roundhouse kicks and martial arts. So if you're into that kind of thing, but it's also this really interesting critique of like male insecurity and violence and workplaces and clubs and, just like social standing and how people weaponize that insecurity and the fear of being weak and how that can turn into aggression when someone promises you power and tells you you're going to be powerful. And, there's a lot of stuff in society that we see. And this movie's from 2019. I think it was ahead of the curve because you watch it and you go, yeah, like I see this, all this insecurity that turns into fear, that turns into aggression. It was ahead by a couple years, and it's weird and tense, but it's Arthouse, plays by its own rules. And that's kind of what makes it stand out for me.
I love that. Yeah, I saw this one at a film festival. I don't remember which one now. And I'm so glad you picked it because I haven't thought about it in a while. And you're right. It's a very timely film that's a couple of years old, but should definitely be checked out. It's definitely one of the ones that I watched and was just like the whole time laughing, but also going like, oh.
Yeah. It's a cringe. It's like
Yeah.
Totally.
I love that. It's funny. My final pick is also a comedy. It's not dark. It is satirical, but it's also deeply weird. But I'm a Cheerleader by director Jamie Babbitt. It's like at the time people kind of criticized it for being kind of like John Waters light or something, and like I get that. There's definitely an influence there. There's a reverence. There's some cast members in like from both, including Mink Stoll, but this is a movie that was kind of making its own 90s mark about queer culture, and it's essentially Natasha Lyonne stars as a cheerleader who she thinks she's doing everything right. She goes to church, she has a boyfriend, and he kisses her mouth. She doesn't like it, but she just assumes every girl feels that way. Until she gets an intervention from her parents who are like, we're sending you to gay conversion camp. And I know you might be thinking, that doesn't sound funny. But the gay conversion camp is run by Kathy Moriarty and RuPaul, who is playing a very manly man.
So funny in that movie.
It's so good. And it's like, basically the way they think they will fix these gay boys and girls is by like forcing them into very strict gender roles. So girls wear pink and they wear skirts, and boys wear blue and they fire toy guns. I like it is a great satire of this like concept of both homophobia and like gender expectations, and it's very funny. But ultimately, it's a rom-com between Natasha Lyonne and Clea Duvall who meet at this gay conversion camp. Which also just like you're gonna watch this movie and be like, wait a second, think is that Dante Brosco? Is that Melanie Linsky? Is that Michelle Williams? And the answer is yes, 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 across the board. But like it's a movie that like has become a cult classic because kind of like if you know, you know. And I watched it very young and at the time was kind of like I couldn't quite process what I was looking at. And the more I like watching it again and again as I get older, I think it's such a smart kind of depiction of what it feels like when everyone else gets the note and you haven't.
That's a good way to put it.
And it's like truly very funny and very silly and very self-aware. And yeah, But I'm a Cheerleader is a cult classic for a reason. And it's that it is deeply kitsch and Jamie knew what she was doing. And what's so cool is like, you know, there are people in this who are already queer icons like RuPaul, and there are people in it who have like become queer icons in part because of this movie, like Clea Duvall and like Natasha Lyonne. You know, every time she plays a lesbian, the queer community is going to come out for her. We love that. So, but yeah, truly a very funny movie. And like, what's interesting, and I just want to flag this, it was originally the MPAA wanted to call it an NC-17 rating, which is more to do with the NPAA and their concepts and less to do with the actual content of the film. But it is like a rated R movie for content, but not really for like anything being shown that's super illicit. So like, you know, don't get too tripped up in the fear around the movie that existed in the 90s. This is a pretty, I mean, especially by today's standards. Like we're living in a post-bottoms reality. You're all going to be fine.
Right. No, I think I was going to say, I don't even remember if it's rated R, but I was going to say it could have been like even a kind of hard PG-13.
I honestly was shocked looking back that I was like, this was R, but then I remember like this film is not yet rated. I actually talked specifically about how this film got really hassled by the MPAA because it is about queer desire. And yeah, the MPAA isn't great about that.
Well, I'll tell you that I just watched this recently because I was like, I gotta watch all these RuPaul references. I think I've talked about this before, and like RuPaul in this playing football with the boys is one of the funniest things in any movie. I mean, it is absolutely hilarious playing the football and some of the like montage scenes with all the boys. Just he killed it in that. And Natasha Lyonne's parents in this too, even though they're the bad guys, like very funny in a dark way. Like it really is an extremely funny movie. But yeah, I feel like it's same. I wouldn't have got it when I was like 20. I would have been like, and I had to mature a little bit and like see the world a little bit more, and then go, okay, I'm getting some of this, and I'm understanding some of it.
I was still not at a place where I understood myself enough to understand what this movie is doing. So I was like, what is this? This is so weird.
Yeah.
And I think I might have seen this before I had seen like, I definitely seen Crybaby, but I had not seen a lot of John Waters stuff. So this was still in a like kind of weird realm where I hadn't really figured that stuff out yet. So yeah, but I think it's a great intro for kind of kitsch and camp comedy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, actually, it's funny we watched that, and then we watched Crybaby, and we went down this run of like those types of, and that's what kickstarted it, because I was like, wait, I've never heard of this, and this sounds great, and that's where it all kicked off.
I had to admit,
it definitely is.
I interviewed John Waters about Crybaby because they did an anniversary release, and he was like, yeah, a lot of girls didn't get that it was like a parody, and I was like, that was me. That was, I was just very young and had not seen a movie. I hadn't seen like any of the movies they were like kind of aping. So like, I just took it kind of straight face, and I was like, I just thought this was a great musical. And he's like, yeah, I get that a lot from like a certain generation, which is mine. It's my generation. But yeah, I love that. Like, yeah, if you like John Waters, if you like Crybaby, I would say even if you like Lisa Frankenstein, which I think is like the next wave of kind of John Waters influence, then yeah, go back, check out But I'm a Cheerleader.
You mentioned Bottoms. That's definitely one too that, it's in that vein.
Yeah, 100%.
Those don't exist without But I'm a Cheerleader.
I think it's a wrap on our cinematic summer. Whether your ideal movie is tender, dreamy, messy, and chaotic, or just totally unclassifiable, we hope we gave you something new to check out.
We'll include all of our picks in the show notes and over on Kanopy's Letterboxd HQ account. And don't forget, you can stream every one of these films for free with your library card or university login at Kanopy.com.
And make sure you're subscribed to the Film Library so you don't miss a single episode. And if you're enjoying the show, leave us a review or, text that one friend who's always asking what to watch next.
You can also follow us and Kanopy on social media for more movie recommendations and behind-the-scenes extras. I'm Jeff Rauseo. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, Letterboxd, wherever we talk about movies online. Just search my name, JEFFRAUSEO.
And I'm the Kristy Puchko on Instagram, but I'm also on Blue Sky and Letterboxd. Just look for me, Kristy Puchko. That's KRISTYPUCHKO.
So thanks for hanging out with us. We hope your next movie feels like a memory in the making.